Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we are looking at a very well-known band that I know very well and very familiar with their music. We're looking at Metalhead. About a day or two ago now they released a new track called My Hands Are Empty, which is the one we're going to be looking at today. Now, I imagine everybody is familiar with who Metalhead are, but still, as is my norm, I did a little bit of research for the band. There is a phenomenal amount of information on this band, so I had to try and break it down. We've got Metalhead is an American heavy metal band from Oakland, California. The band was formed in 1991 by vocalist Rob Flynn and bassist Adam Duce. The band's aggressive musicianship made it one of the pioneering bands in the new wave of American heavy metal, and it is also considered to be part of the second wave of thrash metal bands from the 1990s. The band's first 4 albums earned the band a growing fan base in Europe. However, they would not achieve huge success in their native United States until much later releases. The band drew controversy with its 4th album, Supercharger, which was released in 2001. It was released 3 weeks after the September 11th attacks, which resulted in the album's only single, Crashing Around You, and its music video being pulled from all media outlets, since the video itself featured buildings burning and stuff like that, and that sort of thing just wasn't done around that time. The band nearly disbanded in 2002, after negotiating off its label Roadrunner Records as a result of this controversy. However, the band would eventually re-sign with the label. Having experimented with elements of groove metal and nu metal in its early releases, Metalhead changed to a more traditional thrash metal sound, and with longer songs. And by its 6th album, The Blackening, 2007, they drew critical acclaim and was chosen as Album of the Decade by Metal Hammer in 2010. The album's first single, Aesthetics of Hate, also earned the band a Grammy Award nomination. The band achieved similar success with its following 2 albums, Unto the Locust and Bloodstone and Diamonds, before returning to its more sort of nu metal style with the release of its 9th album, Catharsis. To date, the band has released 9 studio albums, 2 live albums, 1 video album, 13 singles, and 15 music videos. 4 of the albums have been certified silver in the United Kingdom, and the band's highest peak on the Billboard 200 came with Bloodstone and Diamonds at number 21. As of 2013, the band has sold over 3 million records worldwide. Now, as I said, I'm very familiar with the band, although I've not actually bought any of their material since Unto the Locust, so I've not actually heard the last 2 albums, Bloodstone and Diamond and Catharsis. I've not actually heard those 2 albums. When Unto the Locust came out, I was obsessed with the actual track, the title track, Locust. I was absolutely obsessed with that track. I was listening to it constantly. It's a brilliant track, but Metalhead has been one of those bands that I sort of go through phases where I listen to them. Other times I just sort of forget about them, if that makes any sense. Anyway, we'll get more into that later. So, as I said, we're looking at a track called My Hands Are Empty. I'm intrigued to see what this is like, because apparently their sound has changed back to more of their old style since Unto the Locust in 2011. So, yeah, I've got some lyrics up here. They come from directly under the video, so they should be accurate, I hope. So, yes, we'll see what we have. So, My Hands Are Empty by Metalhead. Let's have a look. And there we go. My Hands Are Empty by Machine Head. Now, I really like that song. That was very interesting. It didn't go how I expected it to. I certainly didn't expect it to open with that sort of really quiet sort of, that quiet sort of bit with the oh bit over the top of it. I didn't expect that at all, because from previous experience with the band, they've always been pretty hard, pretty heavy with most of their music. They may have had the odd softer track, but I've always, in experience, thought of them as a very hard, fast, heavy band. Of course, there were elements of that in the song as well, but I didn't expect it to open that way. Now, as I touched on just before we got into the actual video, Machine Head are a bit of an odd band for me, because I do enjoy their music. I mean, like I say, I've got 7 of their 9 albums, and I've been listening to them since the first album, since is it Burn My Eyes, the first album? I can't remember. Anyway, since things like Davidian and Old and stuff, so I've been listening to them since then. But they're just one of these bands that I'll listen to them, I'll be into them for a while, and then I'll sort of forget about them. And that's not to say I don't like them, that I don't enjoy them. I do. I enjoy their music. It's just not one of my staples of when it comes to listening to music. And like I said, I was absolutely obsessed with the Unto the Locust album when it came out. I thought that was an absolutely amazing album, and especially the title track Locust. I was bloody obsessed with that track for the longest time when that came out. Anyway, to this track, it was very, very good, very interesting. I liked the contrast between the two different styles. You had that sort of quiet bit, and then you had the sort of fast, heavy bit. And I think that in a way works towards the meaning of the song, because the song itself is about depression. And it's just really quite funny that I've ended up with this track on my list today, because yesterday I did a video by Trivium, and I said at the very beginning of the video, I'd taken about a week or so off because I'd been struggling with mental health issues, and the song I come back to yesterday was about domestic violence, which is a very personal subject to me, and then I come in today with a song about depression, which is another thing very personal to me, because I do suffer with quite severe depression. So it's things are going a little bit strange here, and the fact that I've come back with 2 songs that are deeply personal to me. Now, the way they've worded this, I quite like it. And I like the way the overall song's been done. Like I said, there's the heavy and harsh side, and then there's the sort of quieter side, and it's sort of that sort of makes me think about the ebb and flow of depression. How you'll have your calm, good days, and then you'll have these sort of tumultuous days where your head's just absolutely raging, and it's dragging you really far down. So it sort of speaks to me in that sort of way, in the way that they've actually written the song. And I'm curious as to who is singing the clean vocals, as it were. Excuse me, beg pardon. But anyway, the song goes: misery, cover me in waves. The heartache is slowly withering. I become her slave, succumb to the darkness. Those opening lines say everything. Misery, cover me in waves. So that's what it's like with depression. It just sort of floods over you. It doesn't sort of gradually creep up on you. It just goes boom. It literally drowns you. A heartache is slowly withering. I become her slave. So it's sort of breaking him down, and he's sort of feeling more and more helpless, and succumb to the darkness. Eventually he just completely falls into this major depression. And it's always been it's always described as like a dark cloud or the black dog. It's always associated with darkness. Suffocating like I'm drowning in sand. Depression's got me by her cold, dead hands. So again, suffocating like I'm drowning in sand, which it seems like an insurmountable thing to get through. Trying to climb out of sand. Everybody's familiar with like the trope of quicksand in movies, even though that's not how it actually works. But it's it's that sort of feeling like no matter how much you struggle to try and get out, it all just sort of keeps caving in on top of you, and no matter what you do, you cannot escape from it. Depression's got me by her cold, dead hands, so it's like she's got a grip on me and she will not let go. Treachery, the choices you made, cut my heart open with this golden blade. Now, this is where it sort of seems to take a little bit of a turn story-wise, and it seems like he's talking about someone else who might be actually causing this depression to him. You know, he might be feeling depressed because this third party, as it were, is behaving in a certain way or is doing certain things that are making him feel miserable. And then it goes into that sort of cleanish chorus where it says, my hands are empty, lies so petty. My hands are empty, kill me gently. Now, one thing I should have actually mentioned before is the actual vocal style in this song. His harsh vocals seem a lot harsher than they did, or than I remember in previous albums. Like, I mean, I actually listened to Unto the Locust about a week ago, I think it was, and the sound of his voice in this track compared to Unto the Locust, and from what I remember from earlier albums, I haven't actually listened to Machine Head for quite a while, except for Unto the Locust, which, like I said, I listened to a week ago. His vocal performance in this song is a lot stronger and a lot harsher, and it sounds quite different from what I remember his voice being like. So, you know, there's that. Anyway, the song carries on. Medicate, I watch you slowly die. The powders and pills disintegrate you right before my eyes. The emptiness haunts me. Now, I have a sense here that he might be talking about drugs. You know, he might be watching someone destroy themselves with drugs, and it's making him feel miserable. You know, it's depressing him to see someone destroy themselves that way, possibly. Because there's a couple of lines actually comes back from that. There's the medicated, I watched you slowly die. The powders and pills disintegrate you right before my eyes. The emptiness haunts me. Glass reflections of a cold, dead stare, ingesting chemicals of death with no care. So it's, you know, all those lines combined, it suggests that he's watching someone slowly destroy themselves with drugs, possibly. The fact that he said ingesting chemicals of death suggests drugs to me, where, you know, before it says medicate, I watch you slowly die. You know, you might think, you know, they're taking like antidepressants or other medicines to keep themselves alive, but, you know, they're not helping and that person is slowly dying, maybe. That, you know, that's the sort of impression you might get initially, but it seems to suggest to me that it's a drug addict here. You know, medicate, I watched you slowly die. The powders and pills disintegrate you right before my eyes. So obviously these medications, these drugs, or whatever that this person is taking, you know, it's killing them slowly, and he's watching this person slowly wither away, and, you know, slowly die before his eyes, and, you know, no matter what he does, he can't stop it, and it's making him feel miserable. Like it says there, the emptiness haunts me. You know, the feeling of uselessness and hopelessness, because there's nothing he can do to stop this person. No matter what he's tried, it's not making a difference. Carries on, memories, they haunt me, they stain, of what you once meant to me before this pain. So again, you know, he remembers what this person was to him. This person used to be really important to him, but watching them slowly die, you know, they're becoming a husk of who they used to be. They're not the same person anymore. So, you know, this person used to mean the world to him. They used to be like a best friend, maybe even a partner, whoever. But now they're not the same person, and, you know, he just... It's crushing his soul. It's making him miserable, seeing how this person's changed so drastically, how it's not the same person that he was perhaps in love with or best friends with at the time. And then it goes back into that, shall we say, chorus where it says, my hands are empty, lies so petty. My hands are empty, kill me gently. Then it goes into a sort of variation, not variation, it goes into a... I can't even think of the word for it. It says, I will not hide these scars of mine. Take away the shame. I will not be what's left behind. Find someone else to blame. Forgiveness constricted, no longer human, a ghost in time. And then there was a sort of musical interlude, and then it went back into that, my hands are empty, lie so petty, my hands are empty, kill me gently, and then it repeated that last bit again. I will not hide these scars of mine, take away the shame. I will not be what's left behind, find someone else to blame. Forgiveness constricted, no longer human, a ghost in time. So, it's quite a deep and powerful song. It's talking about depression and the fact that he's apparently watching someone slowly destroy themselves. Someone he used to really, really care about slowly destroy themselves and become someone completely different with drugs and whatnot. So he's miserable watching his beloved friend slowly kill themselves, and no matter what he says, no matter what he does, there's nothing he can do to change this person's mind. They're basically just brushing him off. They don't care about him anymore, and he's losing respect for that person. He doesn't feel the same for that person anymore because of who they are becoming. So, it's quite a powerful song, and very interesting, and I really liked it. Musically, it was brilliant. The vocal performances were fantastic. Like I said, I loved the contrast between the lighter music and the heavy, fast music. It was very, very good. A very good song. I really should go back and find those, get those other two albums that I don't have yet, the Bloodstone and Diamonds and Catharsis, and I will look forward to any other tracks coming from this album. I should really listen to Machine Head more, because, like I say, I do leave it quite a while between times I listen to the band. But yes, I like that song. It's good. And, things like depression and stuff are becoming a real major point at the moment, especially with the worldwide pandemic as it is. People are really struggling with mental health at the moment with this pandemic because they're locked up inside all the time. They're not getting a chance to go out and see their loved ones, friends, family as much as they normally would. So people are actually struggling with depression and stuff at the moment. So it's a really important topic that's going around at the moment as well. And the fact that he's talking about depression and drug abuse in the same song, if I'm reading it right, that's just my interpretation, is that he's talking about drug abuse as well. The fact that he's covering these two topics, people, I've said this many times before, people always say that heavy metal is just meaningless noise and has no deep meaning behind it, but as I've explored in the last 2.5, maybe 3 years of doing this channel, there is a lot of deep messages within heavy metal, and a lot of it is to do with the state of the world and mental health. I've covered so many songs that have covered those subjects, and people say that heavy metal has no meaning, but it does. It's got really strong meanings. Whereas you listen to a lot of music that's in the charts, all this sort of rap, hip hop, and general chart pop music, there's very rarely deep meanings in there. They're normally talking about bitches, hoes, busting caps in asses, or whining about an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, as it were. Heavy metal has a lot more meaning behind it than people give it credit for, and it's songs like this that really sort of bring that forward, that really sort of make you notice that. So I really like the song. I like what they've done. Brilliant performance. Like I said, the vocal style of Rob in this song is different to how I remember his voice sounding in previous albums. Just listening to, like I said, Unto the Locust about a week ago, there is a marked difference between his voice on that album and this album. Now, like I said, I haven't listened to much earlier albums like Burn My Eyes for quite a long time, so I don't actually remember how his voice sounded on there. So I could be wrong. He could be just going back to the old style, like it said in the description of the band I gave at the beginning. But it was still a very good performance, and I really liked it. It's a great song with a great meaning. Very, very powerful. But I'm going to leave it at that because I'm just repeating myself now. If anybody has a suggestion of a track they want me to take a look at, then please do so by all means. You could drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would be of a great help to me. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion, jump to the front of the queue should you so desire. there is a couple of limitations on how frequently you can do that, but that's just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through regular means such as YouTube comments, Facebook or Instagram messages. And if you do suggest a track through those regular means, do know it might take me a while to get around to your suggestions, since I do get suggested so many tracks every single day that I can't keep up. I can't record the videos fast enough, but I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it, I'm afraid. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those involving people of the alternative culture, and it is something I believe in very, very strongly, something I feel doesn't get the attention it really needs. I mean, obviously they want to put an end to all hate crimes, but hate crimes against people of the alternative culture is how this foundation came into being in the first place. Because it is violent crimes against people of the alternative culture that's not getting talked about and get perpetrated all the time. You know, this has been going on for decades. You know, every day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism, etc. You know, we hear these every single day in every facet of the media, you know, whether it's on Facebook, on the news, on television, in newspapers, magazines. You know, we see these things covered in every kind of media all the time, every single day, but we never hear anything about people from the alternative culture who are getting violently attacked just purely because of the fact that they listen to alternative music or wear alternative fashion. And it is a very real problem that's just getting ignored. And the last time there was any widespread coverage of that sort of thing happening was 13 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people who brutally beat them so severely that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived the attack. He was in a coma for around about a week, maybe a little bit longer. I can't remember exactly. But Sophie Lancaster, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and she was beaten to death just purely for the fact that she listened to alternative music and wore alternative fashion. And this, like I said, this happened 13 years ago, and that's the last time this was spoken about, really. You know, but in the 13 years since that happened, there have been several hundred, maybe even 1,000 similar attacks that have taken place, but we've not heard a single thing about it. And that's because no one's died. And that's unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this subject gets spoken about. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before something gets done. You know, people are getting hospitalised with broken limbs and sometimes more life-threatening injuries just because they have a different taste in music to the normal people. You know, and that's not acceptable. You know, you don't beat someone nearly to death because they like different TV shows or movies to you. You don't beat someone nearly to death because they like different magazines or video games to you. So why would you do that to someone because their taste in music is different? It makes no sense. You know, but it's been going on, like I said, for decades. You know, only a couple of years ago, a young woman in Glasgow, Scotland, was beaten by a group of people. You know, she was hosting a charity gig and she had to pop back to her own home, which was a 5-minute walk away from the venue, and in that space of time between leaving the venue and going to her home, she was attacked twice by the same group of people. Beaten, knocked to the ground, punched, kicked, etc. Pretty much exactly the same as happened to Sophie Lancaster, except she didn't die. And we didn't hear a goddamn thing about this. Why not? That's not acceptable. And by ignoring this and by not talking about this, by not doing anything about it, we're essentially just letting these people get away with it. You know, just by simply ignoring the fact that this is happening, we're essentially giving these people permission to carry on doing it, and it is not acceptable. We cannot allow what happened to Sophie Lancaster to happen again. It's something that never should have happened in the first place. And this is the sort of thing the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that these sort of things are happening. They want more people to start talking about this so things will get done before we have another tragedy on our hands. And I think it's something that's very, very important. You know, the world is incredibly divided at the moment. You know, we've got rampant racism on the grow again. You know, this is the sort of thing that should have disappeared years ago. Years and years and years ago. It should have disappeared, but there's a rampant regrowth of this. And, you know, these attacks against people of different genders, you know, that's still going on. Attacks on people because of their sexuality, you know, is still going on. And attacks of people because of their choice in music, it's still happening. We should have evolved past this by now. This sort of thing should not even cross anyone's mind anymore. You know, the way someone chooses to live their life isn't up to anyone else. You have no opinion in how someone else should live their life. And there are just these small-minded people who can't get past that fact that if people aren't exactly the same as them, they are wrong. You know, it's unacceptable. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. If you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can, and they won't go off on a major rant. And if you can help them out in any small way, whether it be a small donation through their website or something as simple as like one of these Sophie wristbands, or maybe even that one, you know, they've got a whole bunch of other stuff. If you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, you know, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we bring more recognition to the fact that these things are happening, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.